Dear Value Investors, welcome back to a new episode of 36 Square Capital Value Investor channel. In this new episode we will be discussing the latest Interbrand 2022 best global brands in the world. If you like the channel, do not forget to subscribe to it and hit the notification bell. Let's get started. The main question we have to address here is why we are looking at brand valuation and those top 100 brands. Remember that as a value investor, if you have done the trainings, the art of value investing, or even the art of company valuation training, which is an advanced training, that the brand equity, as it is called, plays an important role on, amongst many other methods, on how to value the company. And as I'm showing in the balance sheet, in this theoretical balance sheet where you have the assets and liabilities, that basically the brand equity, which is an intangible asset, if it is undervalued, and this often happens, and we will see this with the top 10 brands in this episode as well, that you have the opportunity to increase the book value, so the equity value of the company, by reviewing and adjusting how the brand equity is valued in the balance sheet, specifically in the asset side, so in the intangible assets of the balance sheet of the company that we are reviewing. First things first, what do we learn from an aggregated perspective on the latest Interbrand 2022 Best Global Brands ranking? First thing is that the average corporate duration of the top 5 is 39.6 years. More interesting than that is that in the last 2 decades, only 36 companies were able to stay in the top 100. On top of that, today, the brand valuation, the brand equity value of the top 100 companies is worth more than $3 trillion, and it has been growing compared to last year. And only the top 10 companies that we will be discussing one by one in this video are worth $1.649 trillion. That's half of the top 100. So it means that the positions 11 to 100, so the other 90 companies represent as much as the top 10 brands in the world. Alright, let's get started. Position number 10, Nike, brand value $50.2 billion. In the balance sheet, the valuation of the intangible assets and the goodwill is only at $565 million, so you can easily add and even double the size of the balance sheet by using the adjusted book value when you look at how Interbrand is valuing the brand of Nike as an intangible asset versus what they carry in the balance sheet. Position number 9, Disney, $50.3 billion, the brand value, 14% growth year over year, total balance sheet of $204.4 billion, while they carry in the intangible assets and in the goodwill a valuation of $93 billion. That's why I've put it in red here. It means that the balance sheet today is not giving us opportunity to readjust and increase the book value. In fact, it should be decreased, as the Interbrand's brand valuation is only half of what they carry in the balance sheet. Position number 8, Mercedes, brand valuation of $56.1 billion, 10% growth year over year, with a total balance sheet of $259 billion. The intangible assets that they carry today, non-adjusted in the balance sheet, are around $15 billion, so opportunity to adjust the equity value up for Mercedes. Position number 7, Coca-Cola, brand valuation $57.5 billion, has remained flat compared to last year. They have a total balance sheet, according to the latest 10Q report, of $92.4 billion, and the intangible assets, including goodwill that they carry today, unadjusted, is $32.3 billion. So you could easily add $25 billion to the balance sheet of Coca-Cola, so increasing the book value of the company. Position number 6, Toyota, brand valuation at $59.7 billion, 10% growth year over year, total balance sheet unadjusted of $457.2 billion, and the intangible assets, including goodwill that they carry in the balance sheet, is at 8.0, so $8 billion. So you can easily add with the adjusted book value, the adjusted book valuation method, 50 billion to the balance sheet, so increasing the equity value of the company. Next one, position number 5, Samsung, $87.8 billion brand valuation, 17% growth year over year on the brand valuation according to Interbrand. They have a total balance sheet of $363.7 billion, and the intangible assets, including goodwill that they carry in the balance sheet, are sitting at $16.3 billion. So you see that you can again easily add 70 billion in terms of adjusted book valuation method upwards. Next one, position number 4, getting closer. Google, $251.7 billion, the brand valuation, 28% growth year over year, with a total balance sheet unadjusted of $359.2 billion. And they carry today in the latest 10Q report an intangible assets valuation including goodwill of $31 billion. So you can easily add 200 billion to the balance sheet if you use the absolute adjusted book valuation method. So increasing again the equity valuation here. Getting into our top 3, number 3, Amazon. So they lost in fact a position compared to last year where they were second. You're gonna see who's now second. They have an estimated brand valuation at $274.8 billion. Nonetheless, even though they lost second position, their brand valuation has grown by 10% year over year. They carry today, according to the latest 10Q report, a total balance sheet of $120.5 billion. And the intangible assets, so I've put an asterisk here because it was much more complicated. So it's an estimated guess of $37.6 billion of intangible assets, including goodwill. In fact, they only mention other non-current assets. So normally the trademarks should be in fact even lower than the $37.6 billion. But again, opportunity to increase the equity value, so the book value of the company, if you use the adjusted book value method. Number 2, so who has moved from number 3 to number 2? Microsoft, with a brand valuation of $278.8 billion, 32% growth year over year. Total balance sheet according to latest 10Q report of $359.8 billion. And they carry intangible assets including goodwill of $78.2 billion. So you can easily add $200 billion to the book value of the company. So position number 1, probably you are guessing it. Who it is? That's Apple, with a brand valuation of $482.2 billion, 18% growth year over year. Total balance sheet according to latest 10Q report of $352 billion. And they carry, again, similar to Amazon, it's not very precisely explained or described in the notes of their latest annual report or even quarterly report, but they carry total non-current assets of $54.4 billion. Probably not all of them are intangible and goodwill, but nonetheless you have the opportunity to add easily more than $400 billion in terms of adjusted book valuation method. Alright, but there are also newcomers into the top 100. Who are those? Here we go. Position number 54, Airbnb, with a brand valuation of $13.4 billion. So they were out of the top 100 last year. Red Bull, ranked 64th, with a brand valuation sitting at $11.5 billion. And a new one, Chinese company Xiaomi, ranked 84th, with a brand valuation sitting at $7.3 billion. So remember, if you want to have more details, I really recommend you that you read the Interbrand 2022 report. You're going to have access to the top 100, understand their methodology, and it's really very interesting, specifically for value investors, that you look at those intangible assets, not just about adjusting the book value of the company, but really thinking how does the strength of the brands provide potentially economic moat, and through that higher return on invested capital, and through that higher return to shareholders. With that, thank you for your attention. Talk to you in the next episode, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you like it. Take care.